Everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. There's a unique wireless broadband project in Iowa that's moving from the research stage to public testing. Be right back with more. Hey there, Rick Usey with Broadband Deployment News. So I thought this was pretty interesting. So this is in the Ames Tribune. Broadband Prairie Rural Wireless Project moves to public phase of research testing. So I was just going to read through this and then share a couple of other things. So you see here a wireless tower, and there's a tower right there. So a wireless tower at Iowa State University's Ag Engineering Agronomy Farm west of Ames is loaded with hardware sending radio waves across the countryside, creating wireless internet connections for rural users. Now this again is still kind of in a research phase. They're not really making this public or available to the entire public until right now. There are more poles, antennas, and cabinets full of electronics on the roof of the Economic Development Core facility at the Iowa State University Research Park, and bolted to the top of Wilson Hall, a 10-story residence hall, and hanging from the top of wooden utility poles at Iowa State's Curtis Farm south of town. There are also electronics and lower-to-the-ground antennas next to research fields and in a sheep barn. There's equipment going through the roof of a dairy barn. There are even hardware cabinets on the roof of a side-ride bus. Okay, so I'm assuming that's a maybe a public transportation bus or something like that there. Deploying all this infrastructure in and around Ames means the 16 million ARA wireless living lab for smart and connected rural communities is moving to a public testing phase. The project's progress will be celebrated during a launch event September 6th through 8th on the Iowa State campus, including field trips to ARA, or they call it actually ARA deployment sites. There you see more of the infrastructure. Let me move this over so we can read it. The event will feature technical presentations, including ARA-enabled teleoperation of automated phenobots by an Iowa State professor of agriculture and biosystems engineering and a Plant Sciences Institute faculty scholar. I'll explain more about phenobots, and I think the article does as well here in a minute. An ARA-enabled livestock health monitoring by someone there at Iowa State, professor of agriculture and biosystems. So you can see here a lot of this is kind of farm kinds of things, which is important in Iowa, obviously. And an ARA-enabled agriculture automation by Matthew Darr, the John Deere Endowed Chair in Agriculture Innovation and leader of Iowa State Digital Ag Innovation Lab. So you've got John Deere, and I think John Deere is sponsoring this event that they're going to be doing, where they're going to roll this out publicly. And the details on that, you can click that to get the details on the program. I think I'll pull it up here in a minute. And I'll link to this article and a couple other things in the description. Major goal of the ARA project is to address the broadband gap between rural and urban regions and to advance the frontiers of 5G and 6G technologies, said Hongwei Zhang, an Iowa State professor of electrical and computer engineering and the project leader. Toward a Broadband Prairie, that's kind of what they're calling it. The ARA project launched in June 2021 when the Platforms for Advanced Wireless Research program, which is supported by the National Science Foundation and a consortium of 30 wireless companies and associations, announced $16 million in support for ARA, which stands for Agriculture and Rural Communities, and has a logo featuring the ARA constellation of stars. So, not a great acronym, agriculture and rural, with the RA part being the RA, but still, it's easy to remember. And you notice here, it launched in June 2021, which I think is kind of interesting and striking because that was a few months before the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, and of course the BEAD program that goes along with that. So this was prior to anybody certainly knowing for sure that any broadband funding would be coming out, at least, certainly not $42+ billion worth of it. I mean, we knew there was RDOF out there, and that and USDA was really what people were counting on to connect rural America and unserved areas at that point. Then, of course, we had the coronavirus stuff with ARPA come out, both the local fiscal recovery funds and the capital project fund that a lot of states have been using for broadband. And of course, then the BEAD program, Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, $42.45 billion. So all of this happened before that. So as they're talking about some of this, I think maybe in the beginning when they were looking at this, they were thinking of some of the things they've been doing here related to farming and agriculture. But probably also thinking about connecting lots of people in their homes with fixed wireless, which won't probably be needed in a lot of these areas because people will be able to get through the BEAD program and some of these other programs that have been out, USDA Reconnect kind of thing, will be able to get fiber to their homes and to their farms. But there's still a need for this wireless infrastructure and things for farming and some other kinds of applications, which we'll see here, that you can't do because you can't have a piece of fiber running in the middle of your field, and you can't have be connecting up equipment out in the middle of your field. So there's certain things that this will certainly be helpful for. Over 5 years, the NSF is providing $7 million. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Institute of Food and Agriculture is providing $1 million, and the PAWR industry partners are providing $8 million of cash and in-kind support. In addition to Zhang, there are major contributors from the Iowa State faculty, staff, and students. The project's part of Iowa State's Center for Wireline, Communities, and Innovation. Other project leaders are affiliated with the University of California, Irvine, Ohio State University, and International Computer Science Institute at Berkeley. The 2-year effort is coming to fruition, Zhang said. ARA Phase 1 has been deployed for research, education, and innovation in advanced wireless and its rural applications. While the project goal is to eventually improve wireless service to rural residents and communities, project researchers are now building a wireless platform using the latest technology and testing its performance in a variety of applications, including precision agriculture and rural education. I think the precision agriculture is a big part of it because, again, that's probably going to be the biggest need if we have fiber going to lots of these communities and farms, at least to the curb or to the edge of the farm. As a wireless testbed, researchers write and talk of ARA's technical details. ARA Hall for multimodal, long-distance, and high-throughput wireless. ARA RAN would be like a radio access network. Wireless access infrastructure for connecting to equipment such as tractors. That's important. Many antenna, multiple input and MIMO output systems. That would be MIMO, wireless MIMO. X-haul radios. That's backhaul or front haul. Radios operating in 11 gigahertz and 80 gigahertz bands. The TV white space spectrum, which is interesting. And then open radio access networks or ORAN networks. ORAN would be, equipment that is interoperable from various operators or various vendors so that you don't need to worry about proprietary stuff. Successfully tie all that together, and Zhang envisions ARA one day enabling a broadband prairie that connects rural residents, farms, and schools and communities. We're on track, Zhang said. We're overcoming challenges, and I can't wait for this to go public. So that I was actually going to show that piece of equipment. So one of the challenges that they have is, apparently, and I had to look this up, one of the challenges is with agriculture is like corn, for example. You want to, corn, the leaves should be pointing in a certain direction for corn to really thrive. You want certain leaves to be angled in one direction. You want other leaves to be angled in another direction so that the plants get the most amount of sun. And generally, you have to have farmers going out there and measuring all that stuff manually to see. But they've got this equipment. This was that PhenoBot. So this is an example of a piece of equipment. Again, you've probably got broadband connection here that's going to roll through the fields and actually measure the angle of the leaves. So it's got strobe lights on it that are at a certain angle, and it can tell based on, I guess, the feedback that it's getting back from how the light is bouncing off the leaves, how those plants are situated as far as their leaves, and I guess it helps inform the farmers on what they need to know. I think I linked to this. I think I did. I linked to this article as well if you want to check that out. I thought that was interesting. So this is the kind of stuff, this and broadband and tractors that are going through all these fields and other kinds of equipment that you're still going to need wireless for that. So even though you have a connection, a fiber connection coming to a farm, how do you distribute that throughout this huge area of farming that people are doing, these huge fields? Some of the equipment that you've got out there and some other things, you can do that through wireless without having to run fiber throughout the whole place. And obviously, like equipment like this, you can't have little ports along all your fields where you can plug in equipment and measure these things. So this is a way to have these remote pieces of equipment that just drive through there. You don't have anybody really operating it. You just drive through there and take those measurements. So I thought that was interesting. This is the public launch announcement. I linked to this as well. So you see here, welcome to the ARA public launch. After years of dedicated efforts in planning, development, and deployment, and with contributions from broad public-private partners. IIJA is to be launched as a publicly available wireless living lab supporting rural-focused research, education, and innovation that will not only address the broadband gap between rural and urban regions, but also advance the frontiers of 5G and 6G. Wireless platforms featured by IIJA have demonstrated promising performance so far. For instance, up to 3 gigs wireless access throughput, up to 10 kilometers effective cell radius. It's a little over, I think, 6.2 miles, I think. And then, yeah, it's like 10K rate, 6.2 miles. And close to 10 gigs throughput across a wireless backhaul link of over 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles, over 6.2 miles. So that's basically a little bit on the program, and you can, or actually I should say in the project, then you can click on the program for the public launch if you wanted to check that out. If you wanted to go or see what it's all about, they've got their agenda right there. If you did want to go, there's venue and travel. Especially if you're an I, you might want to check that out. Registration and travel grant. Event sponsors, as I mentioned, John Deere was one. John Deere, NSF. And then there's a contact page there. So you might want to check that out. As far as where this is in Iowa, so if you look at this map, so here you've got Des Moines and Cedar Rapids. So this is basically the area that they're talking about here again, where you've got the campus in Ames, and then I guess that's where that is. And then you've got these various connected points here. You got the Boone Tower, whatever that is, and let's see what else we got here. Where is this? I think it's actually, there was a link from here. Let me find that. Actually, I don't have it. So I think there's a link on this page here. Go there and look here. Deployment, that's where I found that. Yeah. So you can zoom in here as well, and it maintains what the names that were here. So you got the Boone Tower, ISU Agronomy Farm. What is that there? That's the ISJ, Curtis Farm. So you got some farms there. State Center of Water, that could be a water tower. Not sure what that is. So anyway, that's the project area right there. And I just expanded that into a Google map. So that's what that was. So anyway, I think that's a very interesting project. And as I was looking at it, it's like, well, you know, what are they going to do with this? But because again, it was prior to IIJA, but obviously this has been, I think, worthwhile research to help, because again, you're going to need good fixed wireless technologies, whether it's somebody that's in a area that's maybe, you know, could be here on these farms or somewhere that it's hard to reach, where you, this will be good research for fixed wireless in general, but then also you're going to need that on these large areas where you've got these farms to be able to handle some of this equipment, those kinds of things. So thanks for joining me today. If you learned something new and it was interesting, if you give me a like on the video, I'd appreciate it. If you are not subscribed to our channel, go ahead and click the little subscribe button that you see there down at the bottom of the video or below YouTube. You can do that. Click the bell to be notified when I am live. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.